The Spurs win total projection takes a hit. And how's Wemby looking so far?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from San Antonio Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. I am glad to have you back. Hope everyone's having a great work week. And someday, we'll get you over that hump right here on Locked On Spurs. And make sure to subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. What are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at the Spurs win total projection. Yes, Las Vegas updated it, and it took a hit. But you're not going to be surprised about why. We all know why. And then we're going to be talking about Wemby. How's he coming along so far at this point of the NBA season? We're going to be doing all that with Brandon Medina. He is back right here on Locked On Spurs. He is with the Fantasy Gods on YouTube, and we'll be discussing exactly his thoughts on the win total projection and giving his Vegas Inside information on that and more right here on Locked On Spurs. But before we bring Brandon on, I want to talk to you a few seconds about just the season so far. Look, Rome wasn't built overnight. The malls that you go to wasn't built overnight. And yes, it's this really, really, really sucks what's going on right now with your Spurs. 12-game losing streak, one of the longest losing streaks in franchise history. Not looking good. They all look discombobulated. The Sohan experiment, it looks bad right now, but maybe it'll pay off. It's tough. It's tough. And I'm right there with you. I'm right there. I'm trying to be impartial. I'm trying to say, hey, look, I'm just an outsider looking in, just as you are looking in, and whatever decision they make and whatever opinion we have, it's not going to affect them and it's not going to impact us on their end. So try not to spin your wheels. But despite it being stressful for you Spurs fans, just take a deep breath. That so many organizations have gone through this before, not just the Spurs, but the Cleveland Cavaliers. They lose LeBron James and they go through a rebuild and he comes back and look at that. I mean, Dallas Cowboys. When was the last time they've been in the Super Bowl? They have a playoff or at least a Super Bowl drought there, and they're America's team. So it happens across all leagues, NHL, MLB. It happens. This just happens. But the good news is that eventually the Spurs will climb back to the top of the mountain. They got themselves a great piece. Wemby, we'll be talking about him later on. And Devin Vassell's coming along good. And don't forget, they got a cachet, a war chest of picks and cash. And yes, flippable young players. So although the present might really, really, really sting right now, the future does have a big, bright spotlight on it if the organization plays its cards right. That's going to be looking at Brian Wright. That's going to be looking at his staff. That's going to also looking at available free agents or those that want to come to San Antonio. Maybe the Wemby effect will kick in finally, and big name free agents will want to come and play with him. Hopefully that'll happen. I'll be looking forward to that. And look, if it doesn't happen, hey, Spurs got enough picks and cash and players they can flip to bring in somebody who's established. But we see what the Spurs are doing right now. They're not in a rush. There's not in a rush. They're not rushing anything. They're taking their time. Who knows? This conversation could be totally different come game 30, 40, 50, and the Spurs finally get clicking and they're good to go. Hopefully, crossing fingers. But as of right now, just take a deep breath. Don't be flipping tables. Don't be getting into wars, social media with your fellow silver and black fans. Have some friendly banter, but don't get personal. This will get better, and I promise you. And then you'll look back at these days and being, good thing those days are gone. Let's forge ahead. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to bring in our guest, Brandon Medina. He is with the Fantasy Gods. We're going to be talking about Wemby, the win total projection, and much more coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hey, this is Chris Sabat, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks all season long each week. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And with no Spurs being listed, why don't we just dive into, the old man, Al Horford. He has played one or more games this week, but with Kristaps Porzingis out, Horford will get a bump in his production. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being the perfect fit. It's the same with your vehicle. Look, do you have a dream ride, or do you own a dream ride? What's the best memory of the car that you've loved? Or perhaps you have the car that you love right now. Or perhaps you're just trying to find the part for your car. Well, go to eBay Motors right now. So if you have a time where you need to have that car being fixed up or keep it running, or you're looking for that cool upgrade, you really want it, well, go to eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED lights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. What more do you need? Go to eBay Motors right now. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay's Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. So what are you waiting for? Go to ebaymotors.com right now. Preserve your ride or die. Go get that part. Hurry up.
Hey everybody, this is Nathan Ray Clark from Criminal Minds and Modern Family, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs, hosted by Victor Wembanyama's new best friend, Jeff Garcia.
And as promised, look who we are joined by. Brandon Medina himself, making another appearance right here on Locked On Spurs. Make sure to follow him on X at Big Poppy Brandon M. You want to do that right now. He's also a host of the Fantasy Gods. He's going to talk about that later on this show. And it would not be an episode without Brendan when it talks about Vegas. Brendan, you're back. We had to bring you back on, man, because Vegas is messing with those win projections. But first of all, how you doing, though?
I'm doing well, man. We're winning money. Shout out to PrizePicks and shout out to Underdog Fantasy. A lot of those prop bets. Every single Spurs game I go to, I got to throw in a few Spurs props. Wemby has been great. I am staying away from every other Spurs player, unless it is Zach Collins 3 points attempted, because the dude's just chunking them up ridiculously. But overall, man, doing well, man. The show's doing well. Shout out to my boy Joe Garcia, the best producer in all of the land. The Fantasy Gods is doing well. We're having a fun time, man. Glad to see my boy Jeff Garcia in the flesh, virtually at the very least.
Virtually, yeah, exactly. By the way, cool jersey you got there back in the background, Iceman, huh?
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's from my days at ESPN San Antonio with my boy Jason Minix. We got it signed at one of our golf tournaments, so I have that hanging over here, moving offices, all that good stuff. But yeah, man, we have that. Got the Dunkin' Nose back there.
See that?
Got plenty of pops, all types of Spurs stuff. So I mean, we're definitely involved. Unfortunately, it's not the most exciting time to be watching Spurs games.
That's why he's a pro, man. He just gave me the perfect segue into our next
Come on, baby.
Here. Spurs win total projection. Now, maybe this segment might be short and sweet, but to nobody's surprise, Brendan, the Spurs win total projection has plummeted. It has reached as high as 29.5 and is now down to 24.5, according to Bet Online. Like I said, to nobody's shocker, it's come down, but I got to ask you, ahead of the season, Vegas was projecting 22.5. First of all, one, are you surprised it hasn't plummeted further? Why do you think it hasn't plummeted to that preseason projection of 22.5? And where do you stand on this? What would you tell Spurs fans that are looking to perhaps bet the over or the under on this latest projection?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's a great point. Looking at things, I met up with you a little inebriated drinking at the first game, and you asked me about what I thought, and I told you 30 games was exactly where I was. So I took that over of 29.5. I mean, I put $100. Listen, when you got money like Jeff Garcia, it's not an option.
Well, first of all, I mean, you're not that far off. 29. It's 29.5. Sorry, it was at 29.5. So I can understand why you did it.
So I took the 29.5 because I thought 30. When you asked me on that first game, I said 30 games is where I think. Now I have to stick where I put my money is. You know what I mean? My money and my mouth has to match up. So I'm still staying with that. There's still plenty of games left. Now, with that, you're going to have to win almost half of those games to really get there. But
Yeesh.
looking at things, I am surprised it's dropped, but I am not surprised it hasn't dropped
Right.
any lower, only because I think 24.5 is where it's at right now. And that seems to be exactly where it should be, only because if the NBA is matching what fans are seeing, Wemby looks like a great, great prospect. He looks
Right.
incredible. Keldon has had his nights. Devin Vassell has definitely not been at 100% healthy. And when he
Right.
is, he's a difference maker for this team. I think this team also has the benefit of the doubt when they have a Hall of Fame coach, which I'm sure is a very touchy subject for many fans right now, with the antics he's done. But overall, I do think I'm still in on the Spurs. I have to be, as a season ticket holder, as a bettor. I'm all about it. I will still take that. If it drops to 22.5, that's an absolutely smash. I would almost wait another 2 weeks and see what Vegas does. If it goes to 22.5, 23 games is easy to hit. If it even drops to 23.5, I'd be fine taking that for 24 games to hit. I just think you got to just see where things go. It's like playing the stock market, man. If it's dropping, expect it to drop more, expect them to drop close games. But the NBA also knows the Spurs don't have the hardest schedule in the league. You're going to be going against the Rockets, the Detroit Pistons, teams like this, teams that you can compete with, like the Jazz, teams you can compete with teams that are maybe really, really good, but you might get 1 or 2 on them later on in the year. And I think the NBA knows, with still well over 64, 65 games left, the Spurs have an opportunity to maybe go on a run where they win 5, lose 5, win 3, lose 7, win 10. Like, who knows, right? There's plenty of runs in the NBA. And as Wemby gets comfortable, as Pop gets back to being comfortable as a coach, and as Zach Collins stops taking threes, and Devin Vassell and Keldon get more involved, and hopefully the Sohan project works out, or Trey Jones figures it out, whatever the case, as this team gels, you're going to get wins. I'm not nervous. I'm nervous about my 30 win bet, but I'm not nervous in the 22.5, 23.5 range for bettors for sure.
Yeah, no surprise that it's plummeted because they're on a current 12-game losing skid, one of the worst records in the NBA. Not the worst, but one of the worst. I think they're like tied.
They're tied. Yeah, I mean, it's basically the worst.
It's at the bottom. It's at the bottom. And you're right. Maybe to start their season, they were going against juggernauts.
Yeah.
And the season schedule will lighten up as it goes on. So there's a little ray of hope, everybody. So they're taking these lumps right now. Hopefully that'll translate down the road when they take on the softer part of their schedule. That 22.5 projection to start the season, during the preseason via Vegas. It's like, how do they know? It's like, how does Vegas know? You, me, all the Spurs fandom, we're like, heck no. Spurs going to blow that 22.5, take the over. And then now here we are, like, how does Vegas know, Brendan?
Yeah, well, I mean, normally I get a lot of trash talk on Twitter. We all do, right? It's part of being in the game. I get a lot of trash talk on Twitter for not going one way or the other, very much being on the fence, to like pick a side, whatever the case. When you and I talked, go back to that show whenever it was the first game of the season. When you and I talked, I told you, if you think this is a playoff team, you're out of your mind. This is a play-in team at best. You're getting your hopes up, and there was a lot of excitement for Wemby. That day one feeling, that first night feeling, will not be replicated again for a long, long time.
Absolutely.
That day one feeling of the first game of the season against the Mavs was incredible. It was next level, and people were buying in. I know season ticket holders who spent not hundreds, thousands to get tickets and bought very close tickets thinking this team was going to compete, who are very unhappy now.
Yeah.
You got to be realistic, man. You look at the greatest players in history, right? You look at the Jordans, the LeBrons. Every player has had to struggle unless you, by some chance, were named Duncan, who fell into a great spot, unless you were Kobe, who fell into a spot with Shaq. Most young players truly do struggle, and Wemby has not. His team has. That's what is the difference. And you look at this team will have growing pains. A team that we all loved back in the late 2000s, Jeff, I'm sure you remember this. The Oklahoma City Thunder had talent out the wazoo and were still awful all the time. But it's because you have growing pains. You're a young team. You had James Harden, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant all on one team that you drafted because year after year after year, you were not able to compete. That's fine. We have a collective player, a collective unit as a whole who will be able to compete. And that's why I'm saying I'm not nervous. Now, is the play-in still an opportunity for us? Maybe. Who knows? There's plenty of games left, but it's definitely dwindling. Now, you're looking like a lottery team, and that was always the most I guess the most likely outcome.
Yeah. Vegas even had that ahead of the season.
Vegas had it. They're
going to be the Spurs are going to be one of the worst teams, and already slotted them already in their mock draft. So
exactly, and you have to understand, Vegas is not built on winners. Vegas, those beautiful buildings in Vegas, do not come from people winning bets.
Yeah,
they know exactly what they're doing, and there's always a half. They're very good at picking. If you ever see 22.5, 30.5, whether it's prop bets, whether it's players, whether it's win totals, understand that Vegas does a ton of manipulating to systems and analytics, and those are specifically right in the middle. It's not a coin flip like you think. They're definitely leaning one way or the other, and Spurs fans got caught up. I got caught up. I was
Everybody
one of them.
Yeah,
everybody did. You just got to kind of ride with the punches and see what this team is made of. But I do think Greg Popovich will be able to straighten out the ship. Hopefully. It looks like he's also lost a step. But Zach Collins and this team is truly too talented to not be able to compete and at least get into the 22 win range.
I hope you're right. And it does get easier for the Spurs. They got the Hawks next. You're thinking, okay, the Hawks, but the way this team is playing, the Spurs team is playing, nobody should be surprised if they drop a game. Then they got to go on a back-to-back set to New Orleans. Then they host the Lakers. So it doesn't get any easier for the Spurs.
Back-to-back with the Lakers too.
Back-to-back with the Lakers too, yeah. So you factor in what losing skid they're on right now, one of the worst records in the league. The strength of schedule for the Spurs, not ideal for San Antonio. Oh, and by the way, CJ McCollum might return to the Pelicans. Versus San Antonio might. So you factor all that in, and I can see why Vegas is lowering the win total projection as high as 29.5 now down to 24.5.
Yeah.
So I mean, it doesn't get any better. But the good news is, though, as we mentioned, the schedule will soften up a bit. Yep. Hopefully, these early lumps that the Spurs are taking will benefit them in the latter part of the schedule. But Spurs win total projection plummeting. Nobody should be surprised right now. Hopefully, it'll skyrocket later down the season. When we get back, we're going to shift gears to Wemby. You've been hearing a lot of Wemby talk right now from Brandon right now, but what has been impressing us so far from the rookie? What is Brandon like out of that 7'5" French phenom that I heard Brandon took one-on-one and destroyed him? We're going to talk about that later. Coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
But before we continue our chat with Brandon Medina, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. Look, you got to go to FanDuel right now. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot only at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get themselves $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. Yes, you heard that right. That's $150 if your team wins. So you've been thinking about joining FanDuel. There's no better time to get on the action than right now. Everybody get it. Go to your favorite app store, download it right now. The app is easy to use, wide range of betting options from spreads to player props, over and unders. They got it all only at FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off, or at least continue to enjoy the NFL season and enjoy the NBA season as well. Look, I have FanDuel. I go there regularly. You should go there too. Again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Also want to talk to you about Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. You want to go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Go there right now. They have a wide range of dairy alternatives. They have a wide range of just their menu is just incredible. From the Red Bull Infused Lightning Bolt series to the Mudslinger, which is their signature coffee drink, to the OG OJ, which is the Orange Julius back in the 70s and 80s, recreated only at Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. And with the Spurs season underway, they have the Alien. That's in honor of Victor Wembanyama. That's a full can of Red Bull, kiwi, green apple mixed together. I hear it is very delicious. I can't wait to get mine. Only at Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. Look, over 300 5-star reviews cannot be wrong. Seriously, they are loved everywhere in San Antonio. They're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and a proud community member of San Antonio. And they always have a smile every time you go to Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. They're open every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they're active on social media. You can find them on X, Threads, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. The list goes on and on. Make sure you follow them right now at Mudslinger SATX. Go do it right now, San Antonio. Go to Mudslingers. They are fun. They are interactive with you. They love meeting up with new customers. Go to 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, open every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go to Mudslingers. Life is too short for a bland coffee.
Hey guys, this is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. It's morphin' time.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Brandon Medina, the only man to ever beat Wembanyama in a one-on-one game. I just torched him. That's what I heard. Is that true?
It is, sir. It is. For the people who haven't met me, Wemby's 7'4", I'm 7'3", so we caught up a little bit. I had to lower my seat all the way to the lowest setting to make sure it fit in. But overall, tough matchup, 11-1. He played to 11, but overall, I think Wemby. I gave him a pat on the butts and the Mudslingers, and tell him to have a great day. But we stay close.
There you go. Yeah, hear all those tall tales. Yeah, at the Fantasy Gods
on
YouTube. On
You're
YouTube.
a pro. You're a pro, Jeff.
On YouTube, Brandon's going to brag about his show coming up later. Again, that is the Fantasy Gods. You're going to find out where to listen to it and how to listen to it, all the bells and whistles about it, why the Fantasy Gods is great to listen each and every Sunday. That's a little hint. That's a little hint there. All right. Speaking of Wemby, so far, so good. Not too bad. That first few games of his rookie season, a little rocky, but slowly but surely, he's starting to turn the corner and becoming a very consistent player. You are the guest, Brandon. What has been standing out for you as far as Wemby's development?
The thing that you always heard back in August, back in July, back in September, even going into the season, everybody was like, this guy's too skinny. He needs to go eat. This guy's going to get bodied. I'm very surprised with how many rebounds he's able to grab, the tenacity at rebounding. Now, obviously, when you have an 8-foot frame, you better be able to grab some rebounds, but he's not getting bodied up the way people thought. He is not getting absolutely destroyed in the post every single game. Does he have his mishaps? Sure. He's a rookie and he's skinny. That is a fact. But the way people explained it was that this guy was going to never grab a rebound, was never going to be able to play inside, was not going to be able to keep up with bigs. It's going to happen. He's going to grow. He's going to be better physically in the future. I'm glad he's staying healthy, but he is surprising me with his rebounds, averaging about 10. The last 3 games, 11, 9, and 15. That stood out to me.
It's nice.
Additionally, this team is bad, guys. We all know it. This team is not doing great. It is not Wemby's fault. 22 points exactly in the past 3 games, putting up about 20 over for the year. He's had a few big games against big players.
Yep.
I will say he is right where expectations were. I'm not ready to say he's exceeded it, but I'm ready to say he is exactly what he was billed to be, and that is a great player out the gate. I don't know if we're talking about a all-star at this point. It's way too early, but looking at this player, looking at film, he passes what we call the eye test, right? You can talk about stats all you want. On the eye test, there's a lot of things he affects on the court that don't show up in the stat sheet. And what does, points, rebounds, assists, all that, he is an extremely valuable player to this organization.
Yeah, across the board, his stats are up in the month of November. To give you a quick sample of that, so far the Spurs played 13 games in November. He's upped his minutes per game to 31 now through those 13 games, Brendan, averaging 20.1 points per game, 10.2 rebounds, 2.9 assists. And by the way, that's an increase from last month in October from 1.5 to 2.9. His blocks have gone up slightly to 2.8 now. And what's really surprising me, I shouldn't say surprising me, I think it's an agreement with what you're saying, is the rebound. If we break it down from defensive and offensive rebounds, his defensive rebounds went from a 5.3 last month to currently an 8.1.
Yep.
Offensive rebounds, 2.1 per game. So his rebounding has really been on point. And the only weakness so far is that 3-point shooting. I do tend to kind of pull my hair out when he He tends to kind of lean towards the outside shot. I'm like, what are you doing, Wemby? You're like taller than everybody on the court. Just get in the paint. Somehow your teammate will find you.
Yep.
But does he have room for improvement? Sure. The 3-point percentage has gone up slightly, 26% last month to now 28% right now. He's taking a lot more this month, 5.5 attempts per game, and he's hitting about 2. And even his free throws have gone up. Free throw percentage and attempts, or at least it's for percentage, to 87%. Last month it was 70. Now, what's standing out for me, though, is his ability to get up for those big dog games. That's what I like. So we break the numbers down. So against teams that are having above 500 record or 500 or above, he's played 11 those games. 29 minutes per game. He's averaging 20.3 points per game, 9.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 1.6 steals. He just really gets up for those big games. I think that bodes well for him moving on in his career, Brendan.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And I think, like you said, the scoring is there. And I've been really impressed with his very much calmness in the game and the game script, and very much willingness to take shots. Now, if you get him backing down somebody, he's taking usually 3 dribbles and putting a ball up, if not less dribbles. I do think he relies too much on the 3-point line as well, but I think mid-range, he's deadly. Inside, he's not afraid to go up. I wish he was a little bit more fearless inside to do some putbacks and to kind of go up with the ball instead of passing it back out. But overall, I think for a rookie, those are all things that can be fixed. Those are all things that are coachable. Those are all things that him and his teammates can talk about and figure out as the season goes on. But overall, I'm really impressed, like I said, with the rebounding tenacity and the willingness to take shots and follow the game script. If they're behind, he gets more aggressive. If they're in front, he keeps everybody else around him aggressive. And so I really think truly you see it on the court and off the court. Dude's just a leader, man. He's focused in. He's not, he's dialed in every single second of that game when they show him, or you watch him on TV, or you watch him in person. Wemby is a competitor, and you can tell the losses are starting to weigh on him because he's a competitor.
The last 3 games in a row, 22 points. He's been averaging, And even against Denver, going up against Joker for the first time, for a rookie, he held his own. 22 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, and 6 steals. By the way, that stat line, he joins some other big man, some guy named David Robinson, as the only 2 ever.
Good company, I guess, right?
That's great company. That's great company. And 4 blocks. I do think he tends to be turnover happy.
Yep.
He had 3 versus Denver. He had 6 at Golden State. So that's another facet of his game that he's going to have to work on.
Yeah.
But also too, Brendan, I think his teammates gotta,
give him the ball.
Give him the ball and cleaner, crisper passes.
Please. Good Lord.
Yeah. I think that'll help his development. But so far, so good. I can only imagine what he's going to look like in 2 months from now. At game 40, at game 50.
Right? Yeah, turnovers will be expected. You have an 8-foot frame. When you're coming down left to right, you're going to get picked. You have big hands. That means that ball is very much exposed at times. It's going to happen. It is what it is. He's a rookie. We'll see what happens. I want to see an all-star bud in here in San Antonio.
Absolutely. And hopefully he'll continue, under your tutelage.
Yeah. Well,
hopefully he will do that.
I'm doing my best, sir.
Yeah. I hope you do. Yeah. So far you're doing a bang up job.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. I got about 8 rebounds on him, but aside from that, the game that me and him played one-on-one was very competitive.
Man, he would dunk all over your
head. Oh, he'll murder me. Come on, man. Stop it. No chance.
He is Brandon Medina. Make sure to follow him on X at Big Poppy Brandon. And we've been teasing about his show throughout this show called The Fantasy Gods. I want Brandon to brag about it. Tell everybody why they should be tuning in.
Come on through. If you like money, come watch The Fantasy Gods. If you like fantasy football, who doesn't? Come watch The Fantasy Gods. If you're not interested in fantasy football, but you like betting on games, come watch it. It is very much the perfect niche for all football fans, whether you're talking fantasy, gambling. We do everything from prop bets to PrizePicks and Underdog, DraftKings, FanDuel, proud sponsor of Locked On Spurs. All that great stuff. Definitely go check it out. Sundays, 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. We really appreciate it. Me, myself, and Joe Garcia, our producer, that comes out all over the place. YouTube, our Twitter, our Facebook. Me, Mike, Guimedes, and Joe do a really great job with it, and we really appreciate you tuning in.
Right, and that's on the Alamo City Sports Podcast.
Correct.
Right.
Alamo City Sports Network on YouTube. Go check us out. And then also all over social media. We flood it, and it has a great time. If you have any questions, ever want specific bets, specific changes, fantasy football playoffs start in like 2 weeks. So it's a very big time. And of course, not many games left in the regular season schedule. So make sure you get all that money where you need to, and make sure you go bet with us here at the Fantasy Guys.
Go listen to Brandon this upcoming Sunday, and then continue listening to him every Sunday. From that point moving forward, he is the best in the business, the only fantasy guy you need to know throughout San Antonio and globally, because he's on YouTube on a global scale there.
High praise from the one and only Jeff Garcia.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. Google Play, Ken's 5 Plus app, Spotify, iTunes, the list goes on and on. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to have a fan episode tomorrow. Yes, it's been a while since I had a fan episode. I couldn't think of a better time to bring on the fans' thoughts because, Pop may have messed up a bit.
Come on,
the
Pops.
Bad season. So we got to get the fan perspective. So that's going to be on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Spurs. And also it's going to be an audio only, everybody. Unfortunately, the fan cannot be on video. But we still have something for you tomorrow right here on Locked On Spurs. So for Brandon Medina, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.